What's up, Daily Doodlers? I hope you're all having a great day today. If not, then you're in luck because tomorrow is Easter Sunday. Now, if you're like me, then you probably really enjoy Easter. Mainly because of the candy, but also because it's kind of a nice little relaxing holiday where you get to spend time with your family eating some food. But the thing that I love the most about Easter would probably be what it represents. So what I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy as much Easter themed items as I can afford, and I'm going to combine it all together to create some sort of three-dimensional artwork. Now, I'm not going to use exclusively that Easter stuff because I'm gonna need like glue and like a baseboard and you know, I'm gonna need to be able to paint it. So this is not like a full blown out challenge, but this is a little bit of a challenge in the sense that I do have to, my main materials do have to be Easter themed. So I'm really excited about this, and I now need to go get my materials. So let's go. Alright, now that we are back from the dollar store, we can get started with the actual creation process of this art project. So this is the idea that I had for my art project. I have kind of like a diorama thing going on here where I'm going to be telling like the story of Jesus' crucifixion, and then in the middle it's going to have the 3 crosses on the mountain. So first I need to figure out the basic layout of how this is going to go, because the sketch is going to look a lot different than the actual product because of the materials that I have to work with. This will make a perfect hat. Literally, it's just the right size for my head. Would you guys still take me seriously if I wore this the entire time? Here are some of the materials I got. I got this. This is actually like really cute, and I'm gonna destroy it. I got this. I thought it might be good to do like texture, like kind of do grass when I do the garden part of it. And then I have these Easter pencils. You see, like I figured we could probably make something out of them. Maybe spears. I bet these would make good spears. And then I found these. They're like little chocolate crosses, but I thought I could use the packaging to create the actual crosses. Now, I did say earlier I was going to try to stick to kind of like Easter-ish stuff to use in my artwork. However, I am including children's toys in that because, you know, what do you put in an Easter basket? You put toys in it. So I did buy this pack of animals. It has a donkey in it because, you know, Jesus rode into town on a donkey. Now, while I did say I was going to try to stick to Easter supplies, I also said that it wasn't a hard and fast rule that I was going to religiously stick to. So I did also buy these 2 things. I bought candles, which, you know, can be considered an Easter thing because, you know, some people put like candles on the table while they're eating their Easter dinner. I don't know. And then I also have this shelf and drawer liner. This has nothing to do with Easter. I just needed something to make a whip out of, and that looked sort of kind of like leather. So these are all the Easter supplies that I have that I'm going to be using. I should probably take this off. I'm gonna try to go in progression of, like, I'm going to try to create each scene in chronological order, so that if any of you don't know the story of Jesus' crucifixion, you won't be like completely confused about what's happening, because this is based off of a story from the Bible. I might also use the lamb and the lion for something, because, you know, like, wait, lion? Why did I think there's no lion in here? I thought this was a lion. It's a sheepdog. I'm so stupid. It's farm animals. These are all farm animals. And I looked at this and I was like, oh, hey, there's a lion in here. That's convenient because there's also a lamb. And there's a lot of symbolism in the Bible surrounding lions and lambs. And so I was like, hey, it works perfectly. It's a sheepdog. It's a sheepdog. Either way, I still need the donkey. Is this a donkey or is this a horse? This is the horse. So this is the donkey. Okay, so here we have the donkey. Honestly, this is the saddest looking donkey I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay, so here is the basic idea of what's going to happen for this scene. So, the first thing that happens, well, I say first, there's a lot of stuff that happens leading up to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, but the typical start of the Easter story is when Jesus rides into town on the back of a donkey and everybody's waving their palm leaves, celebrating the arrival of Jesus, and they're calling him, you know, the Messiah, the King of Kings, the Son of God and everything. They're all celebrating the fact that he's there, and that's why everybody's waving palm leaves, because they're all happy that he's there. I'm going to surround the donkey with a bunch of leaves, and it's just going to be like this, kind of like surrounded all the way around. He's also going to be on a path, so I think to sort of represent the path, it would be good if I kind of put these green things on the edges here, and then I'm going to surround him with the leaves. Okay, so that's the basic idea of it. I want to clean up this donkey because, like, seriously, look at this donkey. This is just sad. All right, let us see how well this paint will go onto this toy here. Okay, I think that should be fine. That looks a lot more red than brown. It's supposed to be a brownish red, but it looks a lot more red than brown. I guess it sort of looks brown, but I'm going to be covering it, doing another coat with an actual, like a fully brown color. And then, but I'm going to try to sort of leave streaks. So, okay. Streaks so that you can still see the reddish brown, but it's not super duper obvious. I will now go ahead, kind of do the brown, mostly on his face and neck and his tail. Honestly, that doesn't look any different. Let me try doing this other brown. It's not quite as dark as the other brown, but let's see if it'll work here. Let's try to spread this around as much as possible because I don't want it to be too overpowering. Now, we need to paint his belly. Excuse you? Was that a plane? Weird, it sounded like it was flying low. A crop duster, maybe? There we go. Now, he's not perfect, but doesn't he look so much better than he did before? Like, he actually looks like a donkey now. Before, he just kind of looked like a horse-shaped figure, kind of. Okay, first scene is done. Now it's time to move on to the next scene, which is the...
What's the next scene?
The bribe, yes. The next scene is where the priests bribe Judas to betray Jesus. So the first thing I need to do is I need to create the bag. Now I'm not completely sure how to do that, but I'm gonna figure it out. So then if I just rip out the thread here that's holding the two pieces of burlap together, then I should be able to pull them apart fairly easily, and then I can cut what I need out of the bag. That almost has stuffing in it. Look how big this is, and look how much stuffing was inside there. What is the point of that? What? You might as well just not put stuffing in it in the first place. Wahaha! There we go, finally. Alright. I am going to turn it into a bag. How am I going to do that? I don't know. Let's figure it out together. Let's take the stuffing. Let's put it like this. Oh, there we go. Sort of like this. Okay, so then that makes like kind of a neat little sack, but I want it to be open ever so slightly so that you can see some of the coins inside. All done. Now I am going to paint this. Alrighty, that's not exactly how I wish the brick looked, but it's going to be mostly covered up by this bag anyway, so I don't think it matters too much. So I'm just going to use pennies, because I have a lot of them, and they're worth the least. In fact, I don't even know why we make pennies, because it costs more to make them than they're worth. Which I think is so stupid. Okay, I need just enough that it can cover up the stuffing. I wonder how many of you are screaming at me right now because I'm using actual money for this. They had like fake money at the dollar store, but it was so cheesy because they had those ginormous, the ginormous lettering on it that said copy, which I think, like, you're required to put on fake money, but can't they make it just a little less obvious? Because seriously, that is really... I mean, it's obvious that they're fake even without the word copy, so like, why do you have to have those ginormous words? Why can't you just have, like, in little print at the bottom, just say it's simple, like this is a copy. Alright, there we go. See, now I've got a little bag of coins that doesn't look super duper cheesy, like it would have if I used fake money. Wait. I just defaced money? Isn't that, like, a crime? Okay, I think it's looking alright so far. So now, time to take this and do the next section, which is the Passover dinner. Okay, so the Passover dinner in biblical times, well, even now, I think people still celebrate it now, is kind of like a holiday, a celebration, like if you don't really know. And that goes back to a different story in the Bible. But at this particular Passover dinner, this is where Jesus prophesies that one of his followers will betray him. All right, now that I've got the table and the floors painted to look like wood, this is where these candles come in. So the way that I'm going to do this is I am going to shorten them so they're like about here, but I want them to be taller than the table. Maybe to be like somewhere like this. Okay, so I think I want it to be somewhere around here. Whoop! Got it. So now I need the clay. The clay, what did I do with the clay? I have a ginormous mess surrounding me right now, and I'm like positioning the cameras just right so that you guys can't see it, but trust me, it is like a bomb went off in here. Aha! Okay, here's the clay. So I'm going to use, I need the brown for the crown of thorns. However, I think I have enough that I can also use it for the bread. Okay, so I really don't need all that much for the bread. So, looks like a potato right now. The problem is it's too dark. It's gonna blend right into the table. I don't have anything lighter though. I mean, I wonder how it would look if I did, because you know how like bread used to have those like 3 strips? So what would it look like? Ugh. It looks like a shoe. There we go. That's alright, I guess. That's not too bad. I mean, it doesn't look very natural, but you can sort of like see how it's bread. So I'm actually going to experiment real fast here, because I don't really need the black or the white for anything else. At least not all that much of it. So I'm going to mix them together and see if I can get like any sort of gray, or if it's literally just what I think it will be, which is it'll just be a really lame combination of black and white that isn't actually mixing. You know what? That's actually not bad. I could probably make that work. Let me try adding a little bit more white to it. I was expecting it to be like Play-Doh, where it just won't mix. So I might, after I create the crown of thorns, and I know that I don't need any more brown, then I might go back and try mixing brown with some white and trying to make a lighter color of brown for the bread. All right, there we go. There is the cup and the bread. You think I should like try to put wine in it? Because it's the whole symbolism behind it is the bread is supposed to represent Jesus's body broken and beaten on the cross, and then the wine is supposed to represent his blood poured out for us. Oh dear, it's melting the wax. I did not consider this. You know what? I'm actually going to put the cup on its side rather than standing up like I was originally going to do, and that way I can have the wine poured out onto the table. Oh dear, I've made a grave mistake. It's not gonna work. There we go. Now, this next scene is Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, I believe is what it's called. So this is where these flowers here will come in. Because what I want to do is I want to have like praying hands that are praying, and then I want them to be surrounded by flowers. And I chose lilies because of the Easter lilies and everything. Okay, now that I've got paint all over all of my hands, that was lame, I'm sorry. Alright, so let's sort of arrange this and see if we can't figure out how exactly we want this to go. So the next scene we have going on is going to be the scene that represents Jesus being whipped, as well as him carrying the cross with the crown of thorns on his head. So in order to do that, I'm going to need a cross as well as the rest of that clay. What did I do with that clay? Okay, the clay for the crown of thorns, and then I'm going to need this shelf liner to make the whip. I'm going to make the ground look like gravel, just because I think that there's already a lot of green and brown, and I think adding in a little bit of gray in there might be good. That is the next thing. Let me go ahead and open this up. Okay, so this is what I need, the cross. I'm gonna have to wash some of that chocolate off. But you know, now I don't have a place for the chocolate, so I guess I'm just gonna have to eat it. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for the artwork. Alright, so from here on out, it was really early in the morning, and I actually wasn't able to record any face cam because everyone was sleeping and I didn't want to be talking and risk waking them up or disturbing my parents, so I just have a little speed art of the remainder of this video. So really all that's left is making the crown of thorns, and all I did was just roll out two very thin strands of clay, and I sort of twisted them together, and then I actually mixed the brown and the white to make a lighter brown for the thorns, and I actually did the same thing for the bread as well. So I did change the bread so that it wasn't that dark brown that blends in with the table, and then I took the orange stripes off and I replaced them with a slightly darker brown, and it looks so much better. But back to this scene, I decided it would be best to sort of prop the cross up on its side instead of standing it up or laying it down completely, because it sort of represented a little bit more that Jesus was carrying it, and I put the whip as well and the crown of thorns leaning against it, and then I just splattered everything in red paint to just give it that little bit of extra flair to show that this is the point where Jesus is being beaten and whipped and he's bleeding. The next section is where Jesus has died. He's still on the cross and the guards are gambling for his clothes. So they're probably in that time they would have pulled lots where they put their names on sticks and put them in a jar and then drew them, and whoever's name they drew was the one that won. But you don't really think of that type of thing when you think of gambling these days. You think of like dice, and so I decided to go for dice for the gambling to sort of represent that. And then the next two scenes, part of it had to be propped up against the middle, so I decided to just go ahead and do the middle. I was originally going to save it for last, but I figured it would be best to do that before the last two scenes because, like I said, they needed to be propped up against the mountain. And the mountain of Golgotha, I believe is what it's called, just is where Jesus and the other two thieves were crucified. And so I just went ahead and painted the remaining 3 crosses. So now I am working on the last 2 scenes, and they're basically the same ones. However, the first one is where Jesus is inside the tomb and it's closed. He's dead inside of there, and there are guards that are posted around the tomb to make sure nobody steals his body. And then the next scene is where the stone, it's the same place, but the stone is rolled away, and the spears are laying on the ground to represent the guards. They were prepared for someone from the outside coming and trying to take it, but they weren't prepared for someone from the inside trying to get out. So that's what those spears laying on the ground will represent. And in order to sort of distinguish from the 2 scenes, I did put some grass that was starting to grow on the last scene, and I thought that was a good compromise to show that this is still the same area, but it also sort of gives a little bit of symbolism to this is also a new beginning, and this is where Jesus defeated death and rose from the grave. Now, this video is a little bit longer than normal, and I tried to cut it down as much as I could, but I really didn't worry about it too much because I figured that Jesus' sacrifice on the cross deserves a little extra screen time. And, you know, I'm so grateful for what Jesus did for us, suffering and being beaten and dying and then rising again on the 3rd day and defeating death and forgiving us of our sins and just paying the price of those sins for us. So I just love what Jesus has done for us and the sacrifice that he did. So I had a lot of fun making this diorama, and it was really interesting. Because it took me over 13 hours to make this, but I didn't even realize because I was just enjoying myself so much and having such a fun time making this. So I hope you guys enjoyed as well, and I hope that if you didn't know about the Easter story before this video, then I hope you sort of learned a little bit about Jesus' sacrifice and the amazing love that he has for every single one of you. This is a little bit of bonus content for any of you who might not have believed me earlier when I said that it looked like a bomb exploded in there. But other than that, that is going to be all for this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!